Reserve is horrible. When you get assigned to it, you could be sitting at a hotel forever, for who knows how long, and then when you get an assignment, you don't know where you're going to be flying to, you don't know who you're going to be flying with, you don't know where you're going to be flying. Reserve is just horrible. Or is it? Hey aviators and aeronerds, welcome back to your channel. If you're new here, I'm Ty Jones. I'm an airline pilot bringing you honest experiences, reviews, training tips that'll help you aviate, navigate, and communicate. And in this video, I'm going to be explaining the basic in and outs of being on reserve in the airline pilot life. Throughout this video, be sure to put your comments and questions below, because if you don't comment, I can't give you any useful information for free. Now, during your IOE, crew scheduling is going to take care of your deadheads to and from your base of operations. They'll take care of your hotel accommodations. However, when you're done with IOE, you're on your own. It's on you to make sure that you're in place at the right gate, at the right place, 45 minutes prior to push for an on-time departure. Or be prepared to be a no-show. No-shows are bad. Going back to the scheduling part, whether if you're an FO or a captain, you're going to be assigned an employee number based off the date that you were hired. In other words, if a captain were to have an employee number of 802, for example, and then you have another captain that has an employee number of 8002, well then clearly the captain that has the 802 employee number has been with the company a bit longer than the 8002 captain has, for example. For simplicity, we'll use these employee numbers related to the seniority. As you may have heard, the seniority in the airlines is everything. Now, obviously, the captain with the 802 employee number has more seniority than the 8002 captain. With a higher seniority, you can bid for schedules that you want, flights that you want, weekends off, etc., and have a higher chance of getting the schedule that you want over those who bid that have a lower seniority. Now, with a lower seniority, you can still bid for the same nice schedule, but the chances of getting that bid or getting the schedule that you bid for are just a bit lower. So what kind of schedule will you get completing the IOE? Why don't I answer that question with another question? How much seniority do you think you will have completing IOE? You're right, none. So you're basically at the bottom of the seniority ladder, climbing your first steps up. There are basically two types of schedules: having a line, being a line holder, and being on reserve or having been awarded a line. You're literally a line holder, which means you have a set schedule with flight times, you have set destinations, you know who you're going to be flying with or paired with, and fly as much or as little as you bid for, being that it doesn't violate FAR 117. Now, these available flight schedules are provided a month ahead of time, for which you can look at and bid for a month prior to. That's if you have enough seniority to. Since we're talking about reserve, let's go ahead and assume that you don't have any seniority at all, and you can't even get a line yet. So airline companies need a backup plan for, let's say, when a pilot calls out sick, or let's say, for example, you have a 3-leg trip from Daytona Beach to Charlotte, Charlotte to Chicago, and then Chicago to Wichita. And let's say the first flight of the day, you push back from Daytona and the tug driver turns the nose wheel too hard, for example, and then you get a wheel or nose wheel disagree caution light, which means he broke the front wheel. Maintenance comes out and it takes about 3 hours for them to fix it. As you can see, this will cause a domino effect for the passengers waiting to get out of Charlotte to Chicago, and then for the passengers trying to get out of Chicago to Wichita that same day, later on that same day. Most of the time the airlines will say, sorry folks, you're on your own, you gotta wait 3 or 4 hours until the plane gets here, because they don't have enough resources or crew to take over those flights to accommodate that. Or if the company does have the resources, they will find another jet and / reserve crew and have them pick up the original leg out of Charlotte to Chicago and then Charlotte to Wichita for that trip. Then after the wheel gets fixed in Daytona Beach from the original crew, now you're on your way to Charlotte. Most likely you'll end up either overnighting in Charlotte, or you'll have some other changes to your schedule. This happens all the time, which makes me shake my head, because the passengers get angry with the gate agents as if it's the gate agent's fault the flight is delayed. So, when you're on reserve, you are at the bottom of the seniority ladder, being used as the company's last resort to save them from any scheduling dilemmas and to support them when needed. Just the same as you can support this channel by becoming a Patreon member to this channel. This channel has started from nothing but footage from an iPhone 5 camera to today with having much better equipment to capture and make the better content for you. Consider helping this channel improve even further by becoming a Patreon supporter, and with it you can get exclusive access to content before it's released and are able to ask me direct questions. No matter how much you decide to give, everyone gets the same supporter content for all tiers. You decide how much you want to give. As you've seen over the years, funds go right back into this channel. Also, check out the free ground school training series for private, instrument, and commercial pilots out there. There's tons of helpful information and videos from my teaching days as a flight instructor. This content helps thousands and thousands of great pilots just like yourself, and it's absolutely free. So check them out and let me know how much it helped you. I really love to read and respond to every comment and question asked, just like when passengers ask me where the baggage claim is when they see me in uniform while I'm trying to hurry to my gate. Like, it's right there. Just read. So you got your first schedule and you're on reserve. There's ready reserve, short call reserve, and long call reserve. Ready reserve, you literally have to be at the airport and be ready to fly at a moment's notice. Most likely you'll be sitting in the crew room for about 8 hours at the time, sitting at the airport. Short call reserve, you have about a 2-hour call out, so you can be at home if you live on base, or at a hotel, or a crew, or a crash pad, as long as you can be in place to fly within 2 hours of the call. And then there's long call reserve, which is a 12-hour call out, which is very nice. There are some other factors with these reserve types and can vary depending on whatever your contract says. For the sake of this video, we're going to keep it simple. This is where most don't like being on reserve, because as I was saying earlier, you are literally sitting around on standby waiting for a pilot to call out sick, or a maintenance scheduling issue, or a weather issue. Maybe weather is not allowing the jet to reach the certain destination on time, so they'll call you up so you can pick up the leg that the original crew is unable to, or something like that. You're just sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Or you can get a bunch of pre-scheduled flags to fly on your very first couple of days of reserve. The thing is, you just don't know. You don't know where you're going to be flying to. You don't know who you're going to be flying with or paired with. You don't even know if you're going to be even picked up for anything. And you could literally just be sitting at the hotel or sitting in the crew room for your entire time of reserve and just go home. And you're wondering, as you're flying home, you know, I could have just sat home this entire time. Now, you can call crew scheduling and ask them to put you on anything, or request to be called first if you can fly, if that's what you want, but you may be at the bottom of the seniority ladder for a few weeks, sometimes even a few months being on reserve, depending on how much your company is hiring newer pilots, depending on how much newer aircraft that company is getting. So reserve can be miserable, just sitting there not knowing when or if you're going to fly. But when you're on reserve, it's not guaranteed that you'll fly 30 hours a month or 100 hours a month, etc., etc., etc. There's no way the company can predict this, so how will you get paid for the hours flown or not flown? What they'll typically do is they'll pay you a guaranteed certain amount of hours per month at your current hourly rate. Let's say that guarantee is 75 hours per month when you are on reserve. That way, while you're on reserve, you aren't being screwed by getting only a $200 paycheck, since the company only used you for 2 hours or 2 flights during that pay period. You can sometimes find this information on airlinepilotcentral.com. So if you are hired at, let's say, $100 an hour, being on reserve, that's at least $7,500 a month before taxes, of course, regardless of how little you fly. Of course, if you fly more than 75-hour minimum on reserve, you will get paid for the amount of hours extra you've flown at your current pay rate on top of the $7,500 minimum, for example. Now, let's say you have lots of seniority and you don't want to fly, yet still get paid. Based on from what you've learned from this video, what would you do? Now, you know the company typically will choose the lower seniority pilots first for reserve. So, when do you think they would call a higher seniority pilot? Probably never. Most, if not all, reserve slots will have filled up long before they're going to call a higher ranking senior pilot that bid for reserve that month. So what some pilots will do when they have a higher seniority and they live on base, like for example in Dallas for DFW, in Chicago for ORD, you get the point, they bid for reserve and stay at their own home instead of being at a hotel or crash pad, since they can get to the airport within the time required for the type of reserve that they're on, and just sit at home and make money while playing golf, possibly never having to work/fly during that reserve period. Is this something you would do if you had the seniority for it? Sounds crazy, right? But now, I'm not recommending that you do this, but there are some folks out there that are actually doing this right now, both FOs and captains. So is reserve as terrible as it sounds? I'm Ty Jones. It's time to fly.